Good day and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Joan Hayes, and today I'll be working on a wet on wet piece, trying to show you how I do a complete wash over a painting with a translucent wash with the Holbein colors, gray on gray, and Holbein, it's a French word for yellow, which is jaune, Jaune. And in this piece, I start out my painting wet on wet. I wet the back of the paper. I'm working with Arches 300-pound watercolor paper. And I wet the back, I flip it over, and I wet the front so that the piece will lay flat. And then on this piece, I'm bringing in ultramarine blue with a tiny touch of Payne's gray, working my sky area. It's a little bit of a waterway. I'm really trying to show you how you can put a base coat down and come in with some transparent colors over to give a nice wash atmospheric look. So I go in a little bit intense with the colors. It's very wet, very, very wet. And I'm basically just putting in some playful colors. No real idea of what I'm doing yet, which sounds bizarre, but it's true. I'm just going in to show you how you can go over a painting and soften the whole thing afterwards. So I start out with this burnt sienna, the Payne's gray, and I'm using my fan brush to basically feather it out. And then I'll come in with some more blue, and I'll try to keep in mind the background coming into the foreground so the painting isn't separated. Background to the sky to the foreground, if you will. I'll introduce some brilliant orange, cad orange. Again, this is going to be covered with a translucent wash at the end, just again to soften the piece. So I want to go in with some kind of intense color just for a fun underbody with this piece, and feathering it through, keeping in mind how my strokes are. I work both horizontal and vertical on purpose so that the piece is kind of meshed through the whole thing. The Payne's gray is quite intense there, but again, I'm going to show you how I do a wash over this whole thing to not cover up what I've done, but to show the underbody in a softer way. Now I'm bringing in straight ultramarine just because I want to make sure that background sky flows with the foreground, as I often talk about. This is the cream, this jaune cream, this yellow, French yellow, name for yellow, that Holbein makes, that I love, and I use it often to accent a piece after maybe I've thought the piece was too harsh or just needed a smokier look, and I'll use that color oftentimes, and it really is a nice accent. I'll bring that fan brush in to again try to mesh all the colors together. This is a very impressionistic piece. There's no reality here. It's just an impression from memory of whatever. It's just almost a dream piece. So keeping in mind that the separation of sky and foreground, I'm going to clean my brush, try to introduce a little bit of that French cream into the sky a little bit so that the sky and the foreground are all in one painting. I don't want this piece to feel like I could tear it down um, the horizon line and no one would know it was had once been one painting. So you see how I'm just going to slowly start bringing that translucent color into the whole piece. And I want to emphasize, you know, Holbein paints are very good paints, and they, you know, the paper I use is Arches, and that's also a really good paper. And, you know, once you get into painting more and more, it is important to upgrade your products if you can, because your paintings will get better. You'll be surprised, especially with the paper, how important that is. Um, Paints, of course, but the paper, it won't buckle. It will lay flat for you if you spritz both sides. You can rub it a little more and it's less likely to tear. So again, here I go with the opaque. I went into the sky and bringing the foreground into the sky, getting rid of lint on my paint paper, um, and just working it left to right and bringing that background into the foreground, if you will, so it's starting to look like one painting. And I'm starting to like it now. You'll be surprised in a few minutes when I go over the whole piece with another wash, and it almost appears like I'm covering up everything, but I'm not. I'm just putting a coating over it to soften it. And remember, you know, this is going to just put a light coating over it and still show through the body underneath. And especially with the sky, you think, oh, why cover that up? But I just want to soften it ever so slightly, not to remove everything I've done, but just to get it to marry to the foreground a little bit better. I've made that foreground very smoky, and I need to bring that background, that sky, into my foreground, if that makes sense. And remember, when it dries lighter, and most everything will show through. It will just be an ever so subtle smoky image. You really can't go too far wrong with this. And I do this after it has dried. Now it's quite, I've come in with my quite a bit of water on my brush, so I'm able to move it around pretty fluidly. And just keeping in mind any of the strokes. You know, and as I've told you many times in paintings, it dries lighter than the initial laydown of the paint. And this one, you know, this Holbein gray on gray paint that I'm using, it's really a very soft gray with a hint of blue in it. It's almost like a very, very soft gray blue. And I'm going into the foreground right here, going right over my cream. Not going to cover it up, but definitely soften it now. And that's also to make this whole piece work together. So it's not covering the cream, just ever so subtly going over it. And you can already see where the sky, what I had before, is showing through. Not completely dry yet, but it will show most of what I had done initially. So you can see I skipped ahead a tiny bit, that the sky, I did not cover up the sky. And now I'm just going into the foreground, giving a little final dry brush strokes here and there. And then I'll just inspect the whole thing and look around and see, here are the paints that I use. So I hope this has helped introduce you to another technique. It's fun to have these on hand. You don't need to use them all the time, but they are a nice accent colors to use. So I hope it encourages you to give it a try. I hope it encourages you to pick up a paintbrush and paint. If you're liking what I'm doing, please follow along and subscribe. It encourages me to keep going. I'm trying to do a couple paintings a week, and I've enjoyed this new journey. I hope you have as well. And I hope to see you in the next painting. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.